live, and I have with me as a guest Andrew Giuliani, who's very popular, and my son. And we're gonna start off with, I like to call it a tale of two wars. And since they're both in.
Well, I don't want to interrupt the host of the show, but before we get into the wars, I just do want to say one quick thing. I want to welcome you back from the Communist Republic of Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah.
First and foremost. And the only thing I just want to say is that I'm very proud of my father. And I believe that history, however long that will take, we'll see. But I believe that history will more than prove you right with so many things that you've done, not just over your lifetime, but over the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we'll have more to say about that, at least what's appropriate later.
So welcome back to the less communist Republic of New York State.
Yeah, a little bit less. I think it's true. I'd have to say, just on that basis, DC's worse.
Yes,
it's over. New York has a little relief from the over-the-top. It's like a pandemic. You know, Trump derangement syndrome is, I think, the worst in DC. I think it's deeper.
Yeah,
angrier. Even there was a girl down there who was every night when we came out, she was yelling and screaming and cursing and effing and stuff like that. And she claimed she was from New York, but she sounded worse than anybody I've heard in New York, right? Right, Ted? Remember her?
Well,
Ted?
just think.
Remember her? The one from
Ted has selectively forgot. He's kept his brain cells.
Oh, no.
Which, you're talking about day one?
She was getting to Ted.
Yeah, that was something else.
But I thought I from the level of her vocabulary, which consisted of two words, one started with an F and the other with a U.
She could figure out 4 letters.
No, she definitely was a New York City high school graduate. Absolutely.
I will say this a number of
Taught
times.
by the teachers union.
A number of times things got real hectic outside, real busy, right, between the reporters, people just checking things out, the mayor and I and others, and things would get loud, and the mayor would just calmly to everybody, myself, but also to the reporters and everybody else, all right, everybody just call, let's take a second, and everybody would just kind of lower their voices and things would get quiet. It was quite something that happened a couple of times, so I don't know, in another life, if that would make you a priest or
no,
I don't know
that
what,
would
but
make
something
me
very calming, a teacher. Yeah, God, everyone just calm down, right? Including some guy holding a crazy sign. Even he just like, all right, let's bring it.
Makes me a professional, and they're amateurs.
There we go.
Because I'm from New York.
That's it.
You think in DC they can outdo New York? No way.
Of course, well, we were in New
No
York.
way.
Andrew,
remember New York?
Oh yeah. Oh, come on.
He remembers from time he was a baby. He used to come with me and yell at the people that were yelling at me. You're bad people. You're bad people. Well, here's the question that I have. 2 wars going on. One, of course, in Israel, started clearly by Hamas.
Right.
Hamas invaded Israel. There's no doubt about it. It wasn't even a war. It was a terrorist invasion.
Yeah.
It wasn't a war like, they went after the military garrisons.
Beheading children, raping women, burning people alive.
They went after the simplest, calmest, most peaceful people in the kibbutzim and killed them. So now Israel has come to the conclusion after all these years that, my goodness, if we're going to survive, we can't have these people who begin at about 3 months old training their children to kill Jews. So they're engaged in a war to stop that. From the beginning, all we're trying to do, Biden and Stinkin' Blinken, is trying to stop it.
Right.
Delay, stop, ceasefire, now delay. Yesterday or today, we put sanctions on the settlers in the West Bank who are defending themselves, the Israeli settlers, not the Palestinian terrorists. On the other hand, over Ukraine, no ceasefire. Keep going. We've given them 120 billion. They fought to a standstill. They want 65 billion more, and they have no plan to do anything with it, but standstill. Why shouldn't they either both be ceasefires or both go on?
Absolutely. I think there are 2 answers to this, right? Politics and money. right? First off, I think Joe Biden is probably starting to realize, or probably not Joe Biden, Joe Biden's aides are starting to realize at this point that that his public statements originally in support of Israel have major political consequences with the left. And I think because of that, even though this was kind of a fake stand by Biden, if you will, I think they've realized that he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place here in terms of where's he gonna go with all of this.
Right.
And so that's the politics answer in here. The money answer is very simple. If you pour more money into Ukraine, I suspect, and I know you suspect, that more of that money is going to leak through to Biden friendlies, if you will. Ways to be able to funnel that money back eventually to potentially the Biden family and other Biden allies. And that's why it's very important that they, fund the war in Ukraine. For Biden, at least, funds this war in perpetuity. That way it's a revenue stream. And then in Israel, it's very important that he keep power, and it's threatening to him to keep power because you've got a radical left that's out there and saying things like Israel does not have a right to exist.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to politics and money and politics, or money and power.
Well, in the case of Israel, it almost seems like he wants Bibi out. He's told Bibi he wants his government change. He's actually told Bibi he wants his government changed. He doesn't want his ministers in government who resist a two-state solution. I mean, I'd be out in a minute. I resist a two-state solution. I think a two-state solution is ridiculous for America. Biden will have created another terrorist state. I mean, between him and Obama, they may have invested more in terrorism than anybody. When you consider all the cash that Obama gave to the Iran, which is the biggest terrorist sponsor in the world, and now all the money he's slipping to Iran. I don't know who gives them more money, us or China.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling when you continue to hear the leftist illiberal media talk time and time again about how Trump is a threat to democracy, to world peace. When you see what's actually happened over the course of the last 15 years, first under Obama, then under Trump, and now under Biden, right? And I've said it time and time again with Russia. They called Trump a Russian pawn, a Russian asset. Heck, even Joe Biden accused you of being a Russian pawn and a Russian asset. What happened with regards to Russia taking action against Ukraine? Under Obama, they go in and annex Crimea, right? Under Trump, they don't take one step forward. As a matter of fact, Trump puts over 30 different sanctions on Russia over the course of his presidency. What happens within a year of Biden being elected into office, or assuming the presidency, let's say? You now have an all-out war in Ukraine. So anybody who's out there who's thinking that, world peace is at stake over the next year, and they're trying to make that pitch to the American people, just look at the facts, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't opinion. This isn't Andrew Giuliani saying, I think this way, and here's my opinion, or Rudy Giuliani saying that. Just look at the facts of the case and what's ultimately happened in the world over the last 15 years.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as Trump handed him a world at peace, and he's going to handle, God willing, Trump, a world in major wars, with the possibility of it's igniting into a world war. We don't want to predict that. We pray to God that's not true, but you'd also have to be irresponsible and foolish not to realize these are wars that have interconnections. They have big powers behind them. They're almost like proxy wars.
Yeah.
The Houthis come up north to try to hit Israel every day, and the USS Carney hits their drones. They have had at least 92 attacks. The Iranian proxies have had 90 on our soldiers and sailors.
Yeah.
And Biden has basically, I don't know, maybe sent them money so they could buy more ammunition. He's done nothing. So the reality is, this is something that could ignite very, very quickly. It also could be an opportunity for China to try to slip into Taiwan.
Yeah. Well, let me ask, what are your thoughts on the idea of connecting U.S. border security to Ukrainian aid?
I thought it was an excellent idea because, our national security is one big thing, right? So if you think about it, from the day Biden came into office, any Islamic terrorist in the world who wanted to come in could come in. All they'd have to do is pay the Mexican cartels a nice sum of money and they'd bring him in. He gave up he virtually gave up any kind of border patrol on the day he came into office. The last statistic, which is a month ago, the last year you were in office with Trump, you had 452,000 apprehended at the border. This year, they had 2.6 million.
Yeah.
That's a different world.
Mm-hmm.
2.6 million is the whole country.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
450,000. And 450,000 was, Trump in his last year, 2 years, even with the pandemic, had real success finally with the border,
yep.
and with drugs.
Yeah. Well, you could go back to the Remain in Mexico policy.
You could see a big drop,
right?
Big drop.
And the Remain in Mexico policy was a big part of that. It was also in his negotiations with Mexico and saying that, hey, look, you need to control your southern border. This is not just a matter of we're going to make sure that if we're going to ultimately have trade with you in Mexico here, a big part of that trade, a big part of this conversation starts and ends with United States national security. And that means making sure that they don't get to the front lines of the U.S. border in the first place here, which, obviously is something that was completely turned in a second under President Biden. And that's because it was a Trump policy. It had nothing to do whether or not it was effective or not. It was everything to do with the fact that it was a Trump policy.
Yeah. I mean, his first year or two, the border, he got it down a little, but they tried a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last year and a half, he had remarkable success with the border, and even more remarkable success with fentanyl, which tells you the cartels control fentanyl.
Yeah.
And when the Mexican government got control of the cartels, now the cartels run everything.
Mm-hmm.
They run the Mexican government.
Right.
So we've gone from, I don't know how many deaths we used to have of fentanyl, 20,000, something like that, to 75. And I know we've gone from 425,000 apprehended at the border to 2.7 million apprehended at the border. Now, apprehended at the border means 70% of them come in. We apprehend them. They claim asylum. We then put them on parole and give them a court date 3 years from now, and they never show up. The number that actually get asylum is about 3%. The number entitled to them is about 5%. And if they'd only conduct the damn hearing right then, they could throw them right out.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't want to throw them out. He wants to take them in because he wants to destroy our country. He wants to destroy our culture. He wants to destroy the American culture by bringing in people from all over the world that don't speak English, don't understand America, in many cases hate America, and who knows how many Chinese spies are coming in.
Yeah.
A lot of these people coming in are very well-dressed young Chinese men. I don't know. It doesn't take a lot for me to figure out, gee, maybe they're spies.
Let me ask, with regards to the war in Ukraine, what is, in your opinion, what's the objective right now? Because it seems that there's a standstill at this point. What's the objective, you think? What would, if, let's say there is a deal where there's border funding for the Ukraine war. And by the way, I've been, in my opinion on this, and I'd be interested to hear yours. I've kind of said that I'm certainly not against funding Ukraine, understanding what that does to our Russian adversary. I simply want a line by line. What have we spent money on? What is the objective? And I think American taxpayers deserve to have a line by line.
So do the Ukrainians.
Hey, where is this money going? Because it's my feeling, and this is an opinion, that we probably could have spent, I don't know, a third, maybe a quarter of what we've spent in Ukraine and achieved the same objective to this point than what we've actually spent.
Yeah, it's very confounding and really very cynical. Not only could we have spent 1/3, if we had given the right weapons, they'd have won the war by now. Mm-hmm. Zelensky has said as much. Zelensky has said that Biden doesn't give him the right weapons at the right time. Even the Biden suck-ups like the New York Times will complain that Biden doesn't give them the right weapons. I don't know that Biden wants them to win. He certainly doesn't act like he does. So at the beginning, Zelensky asked for money to defend himself. Okay. Then he asked for money to drive them out. They were incapable of driving them out. Then very recently, meaning a year ago, he asked for money to drive wedges in their land bridge to Crimea. And they tried very hard for 3 months to do that, and they failed. Now he wants money. Doesn't tell us why. He doesn't say, I want money to throw Russia out. He doesn't say, I want money to drive wedges between the Russian forces. So now I'm starting to think he wants money for his best friend, the chief money launderer in Ukraine, Kolomoisky, who made him a star, who's, I don't know, number 2 thief, number 4 thief, number 5 thief, number 1 thief. And knows
do they update those rankings?
I would, if they're doing a lot of money laundering, right, he's number 1. Yeah. Also, there's another thing about Zelensky that nobody in America wants to say. That guy knows all about the American corruption, all about the Ukrainian corruption. Do you really think that only Biden pulled out millions of dollars of bribes there? You don't think Poroshenko, the president of Ukraine, pulled out a lot of money too? You'd be shocked at the amount. Oh, it ranges between $50 and $100 million. That means this guy Zelensky's sitting on that. He's sitting on a massive crime by the prior president and that guy's whole cabinet. And some of those people are in his cabinet. Now, all this cash is coming in. Unless Ukraine had a climate change, pandemic, switching of the winds, the country steals money. It was the second most corrupt country in the world. They see that kind of cash coming in, they're not passing it up. And you're going to say, well, they're patriots. Sure they are. They are patriots. They stole in the last war too. They put some money at the front and they take some money for themselves. That's the way the country operates. Everybody around them is like that. And that's why it is so dangerous. Every time Congress wanted to put some accounting on the money, Biden said no. We are so naive, so stupid that we don't insist on that with a guy that's been a major crook in Ukraine. Yeah. This is why when President Trump asked Zelensky to investigate Biden and his son, it should have been done. This is one of the reasons why when that was stopped, we talked ourselves into a war. We talked ourselves into a corrupt war. He's operating with the 2 countries where he's the most compromised. Yeah. Ukraine. Now we go to China, and we got 30 million. Yeah.
But when you talk about too that phone call in particular, the thing that comes to mind to me, it's the fact that Joe Biden has admitted this publicly. This is not something that we even have to review documents for. I mean, I go back to him being in New York. I think at the Council of Foreign Relations or one of those events where he said, hey, I went in to go and talk about the aid and said, if that prosecutor isn't fired by the end of the day, you're not getting the aid. And son of a, I don't know if I could say, this is not son of a bitch. That's exactly what Biden said, right? Exactly. They all left. He was
all
fired.
The stuffy phonies left.
So literally, you have the documentation of Biden saying this, yet they still decide to impeach Trump over this when that should have been, I would argue it would have been a dereliction of the president's duty and his constitutional oath of office. The oath of office he took to the U.S. Constitution to not make that claim to the president of Ukraine.
Not only could you have argued it, but if Barr and Ray didn't cover up the hard drive, you could have proved it. Yeah. Because the hard drive contained the evidence that what Trump was saying was absolutely 100% true. And for the life of me, I cannot understand how Ray remains the head of the FBI and covered that up. He let a president get impeached, holding on to dramatic exculpatory evidence that related to our national security. The other guy did the same thing. And he goes on television all the time and shoots off his big mouth about ethics. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he's going to have to explain why he was sitting on exculpatory evidence that could have prevented an impeachment. Second, he's got to explain how the hell he's sitting on it when Biden goes on national television has those 51 people say it has earmarks of Russian disinformation. He accuses me of being a Russian pawn, and the hard drive proves he's lying. And Barr lets the American people get defrauded.
Yeah.
That is one of the worst unpatriotic things done that I can think of. It's terrible. So shall we take a, do you have a question? Dr. Maria has a question.
Well, if you were going to take a break, you can go right ahead, but I was going to ask what your opinion and Andrew's opinion. We were once called the deplorables because we believe in the Constitution. The Democrats are, did you already talk about this?
No, that was named his baseball team.
When we were in the White House, we had a softball team, and we named deplorables. Thank you, Hillary Clinton.
I have my.
Well, the Democrats now.
Yeah, that's right. He's got a jersey.
Mayor Giuliani, the Democrats do not believe in family values. They have transgender ideology, perversion to young children, now sex in the Senate office.
In a historic Senate Judiciary hearing room.
And they should be calling that behavior out. Instead, they're like, boys will be boys.
Well, they don't address it. Imagine if that was a Republican staffer. Imagine if that was a Trump White House staffer.
It would be an insurrection.
What's
If it was a Republican,
there are some places we can go with
something
that.
else.
I stopped.
We're not. Look, here's the thing that's amazing to me, and you saw this with the Virginia State Senate candidate, I believe. You're seeing it now with Hunter Biden, and with this case in the United States Senate, in one of these hearing rooms, briefing rooms, I think, in the Senate.
Yeah, Biden's best friend.
They're now claiming that they're the victims, even though they're the ones that recorded it and actually put it online in the public domain in order to do that. It's just another example of how this topsy-turvy of a radical world began. This is beyond wild.
This all began with Hillary Clinton's the big, vast right-wing conspiracy.
Yeah.
I was going to say white wing. Now we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back. Balance of nature should be taken every single day to make sure you get your vegetables and your fruits. This is my first attempt at using a Balance of Nature jar as a Christmas ornament. I got that idea the moment I saw it. So I'm going to do it in two separate groups. Tonight, I'm doing my vegetables, the green one. Tomorrow night or the next night, as we get closer to Christmas, I will put the red one up. And the red one is for the fruits. So these are for the vegetables. Merry Christmas. I expect you to have these here, see? All right, right there. Down there in Christmas stockings for all those that you love. Okay? These are the veggies. You take veggies and the fruit every day. We'll be talking about it on the air very shortly. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Rudy. Balanceofnature.com, promo code Rudy.
You're back. Look, I didn't know that we could add to your talent list there, Dad, that you were actually a creator of Christmas ornaments. That's just another one to add to that long, lengthy resume right there. Probably one that Grace right now is probably more interested in than anything else.
Endless talent.
Yeah, absolutely. There it is. He's having his Balance of Nature
I'm
right now.
stacking up on these.
Yeah.
Balanceofnature.com.
If
promo
Fannie
code
puts us in prison.
Rudy. Be sure to use that
I
promo
got these
code.
for in case they put us in prison in Atlanta.
It's actually very Christmassy to have the red and the green right there too. Very, very nice. Very appropriate.
Tomorrow, this one goes.
So if you want to support everything the mayor is doing here and do somebody in your life a great
Show your invention?
favor, go to balanceofnature.com, promo code Rudy.
But that's all you have to do.
Wow, there's the same ornament we just
You
saw
get a
in
nice
that
little,
in
you
that
get a
ad.
nice little hook. This is a paper, just a paper clipping.
When I first saw this, I was concerned that you pierced your ears and you were going to wear this as an earring. But I'm glad to know that it is in fact a Christmas tree ornament.
Well, I'm the only one on the block who has it. So
And in that, while we're in that vein, Mayor, why don't we do a quick plug for our friend Mike Lindell and My Pillows?
Yeah, we were having a nice talk last night about Mike Lindell and what a wonderful man he is and all the wonderful things he does for us. And, you know, during this period of time, when we go back and look in the history of it, there are going to be many, many people who are heroes. Mike is one of them. So what are the best things to get, Dr. Maria, for Christmas? Right now, you can still get them on time.
Yes.
You can stick them along with green and red. You can get.
You know what I love, Mayor Giuliani, is that mypillow.com products are made in the United States, U.S. workers. And you know what the workers said? Our products are so good and we believe in them. We want to make sure you get them by Christmas.
Excellent.
So please go to mypillow.com. I happen to love the towels and the sheet sets.
Slippers,
Lots of products.
rolls.
Code Rudy.
Rudy.
You will help your beloved Rudy as well. Code Rudy.
Oh yeah, you'll help yourself get a good night's sleep, and you'll be supporting everything the mayor's doing here on America's
couple of
Mayor
different
Live.
slippers so you can be cool. See, I'm going to have different slippers so Grace won't recognize me.
Absolutely.
And you know how much Grace loves to get into people's shoes.
Yes, she does.
So I'm going to stick
Yes,
them.
she does.
I'm going to stick them in different places, and I bet she starts walking around.
So now that we got you both here, we got Andrew on for a very special episode of America's Mayor Live. This being our 301st episode. What are some Christmas traditions in the Giuliani household? I mean, I can imagine. I mean, Christmas in New York with the Giulianis. I mean, give us something here.
I can tell you one of the things that I always loved was going to the Rockefeller Christmas tree lighting when he was mayor. I remember this when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and I thought that was always so great. And then midnight mass at
Even when you were little,
was great. Yeah, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
I might have fallen asleep the first midnight mass that I went to.
Yeah,
with
but you didn't
at
snore.
8 years old or so. I'm glad I didn't
You
snore.
didn't
That's
snore.
good to know.
It was really good.
My
Best
wife now, if ever I'm going to fall asleep in mass, she gives me one of these, which is good. So
No, he enjoyed midnight mass, and also the only time I had trouble with him in church, one of the schools I had thought about for Andrew was St. Ignatius Loyola, which is a Jesuit school on the Upper East Side, a Catholic school. Both Donna and I wanted him to go to a Catholic school, and St. Ignatius Loyola is a very good one, and it's connected to the parish, the beautiful church there. Now that wasn't our parish, but we decided we were going to go to church there, and they get to know you. So we went. You met the priest. Third time we're there, I don't know what you're playing with. Some kind of a animal of some kind. The priest is going back and forth doing this, right?
Right.
You see him do that, and you throw it at him.
Uh-oh.
And you hit him right in the suborder.
That explains why I'm not a graduate of St.
We
Ignatius
said,
Loyola.
Your mother and I said, this is not the church. We're going to work on another one. He just took it. It was a great throw, too. I was very proud of you.
Well,
Your mom was a little upset, but I was. Luckily, your mom had better discretion than me because you'd have turned out to be a delinquent. If it was up to me. I love wild boys. So I used to get him wild, and then he would get in trouble. But I'd always fess up, and then I get in trouble too.
It's true.
But the other thing I want to point out is this looks like one of those 1930s, 1940s. You people will not remember James Cagney and George Raft. They played gangsters all the time. It was before they really knew what the mafia was. I want you to look at this picture of these two. This could be James Cagney and George Raft. No, but instead these are the crooked Biden brothers. Now they have been crooked for a long, long time, and I was glad to see that it came out today because I have for 4 years been trying to get attention for the email from Hunter Biden to his daughter, which is around Christmas of 2018, in which he said to his daughter something to the effect that you may be taking some of this over for the family. You must understand that before Hunter, Joe's brothers were the bagmen collecting the bribes. And then Hunter took over for them. So I don't know what he's saying to his daughter, but it sounds a little like you may be doing this. Mm-hmm. So he says to her that I hope they treat you with more respect than they treat me. This is all written out. You can go read it. Because they have no respect for me. They have no respect for me. I've had to pay all the expenses of the family for 30 years. And even with that, Pop requires me to give him half my salary. You see, that explains what this is right here. So what is this? This goes way back to the 1990s. It was a time in which they were trying to pass a major settlement on smoking, where people who got sick from smoking would get money for their sickness, but really they got very little money. Lawyers became billionaires. The guy who became the richest lawyer was a lawyer named Richard Scruggs. He is still considered to be the richest lawyer in America, well over $1 billion. He made his money not on trying cases, but on one big settlement funded by the federal government. His brother-in-law was the majority leader of the United States Senate, Trent Lott. Oh, I'm sure that was an accident. And Trent's a friend of mine. I didn't know it at the time. Trent's a friend of mine, but there's a place where friendship stops. You know where that is, right? This guy can't get, Biden opposes the settlement. Biden doesn't like the settlement, largely because the lawyers are going to get all the money.
Yeah.
He goes to James, hires James as a lobbyist.
Scruggs, yeah.
Richard Scruggs, Dickie Scruggs, hires James Biden. And over a period of a year to a year and a half, he pays him 10 grand a month. Somehow, some way, because Joe never talks to his family about this. You know that. But somehow, through osmosis, remember osmosis? It happens like this, like it comes out of your brain into my brain. He changed his position.
That's shocking.
Just like the brother-in-law was a big proponent of the settlement. All of a sudden, Joe, who was against it, just out of the blue, got a revelation.
So to be clear, just to clear for everybody here, with this antitrust lawsuit against the cigarette companies, Scruggs, who was looking for the Senate to waive the antitrust there,
right?
They went to Joe Biden's brother James at the time and hired him as a lobbyist at the very same time that Joe Biden was head of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And when you're
ranking minority,
he was ranking member.
Yeah, the Republicans pushed it through.
So basically, Joe Biden goes from being somebody who looks and says, "Hey, this is a problem.
Yeah,
We're not
enough.
do this.
Not enough for the people. Too much for the lawyers."
And after James Biden is hired, Joe changes his position and becomes one of the biggest.
Completely
opponents.
unrelated.
Wow.
And that's been proven. Yep, it's been debunked. They told me that the first time I brought out the evidence on Biden with the $5-6 million bribe in Ukraine, they said it's been debunked. I said, could you please show me the debunking report? I've yet to see it. All I've seen is a Ukrainian file that's about this big, filled with more evidence than I ever had in any case where I prosecuted someone. You know who has that file? Mr. Zelensky. You know, he's sitting on it. You think when he says to Joe, I want another 65 bill, what do you think Joe says? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Leverage. It's leverage, right?
So, end the story. Finally, Mr. Scruggs, who's a very, very smart guy, very sharp, smart guy. I happen to know him too. Crooked as hell, but smart guy. He gets caught bribing a judge, and he goes to jail for 5 years. But he's still the richest lawyer in America. Wow. So I guess the 5 years in jail he was willing to take, and keeps his mouth shut and doesn't rat on anybody.
So this is a guy who was bribing judges, and James and Joe Biden, or James Biden at least, it was his lobbyist.
Yeah,
on Capitol Hill, while Joe
changed his mind,
was the ranking member of the.
And
Senate
Joe only
Judiciary.
changed his mind after the brother got the first 10 grand.
My goodness.
So I would say you see the evidence there. It's not as conclusive as the one you talked about where Joe admits to bribe.
Mm-hmm.
But I tried cases like that. And that's what you call a circumstantial evidence case.
Right.
And that one depends on the skill of the trial lawyer. And I'd love to try that case because that's not a sure win. I bet I win it.
Right.
The other case is a sure win.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we tried the commission case, I said it's a sure win.
Well, it's a sure case if you have
when you got him on tape,
judge.
Yeah, if you got an unbiased judge and you got him on tape,
mm-hmm.
you got them on video and audio, you got them in writing, you got them on emails, and you got 5 witnesses. That's a sure case. The commission case, I said, you really played disc jockey rather than try. You just play the tape. With Biden's RICO case, you just play the tape. This one with Scruggs, you got to draw the you have to draw the conclusion that the change in position could only have taken place.
Well, what would be interesting about this is in a discovery process for a case like this,
You might
what else
find-
would come out?
Well, of course, nobody's ever really looked at their accounts. You also have something else you can do. You can put in evidence all the times that Joe Biden said, I never talked to my family about any of the business at all. And I know nothing about it. Now, there's a great tape recording where Joe calls his son and says, I just read the New York Times story about all your all your Chinese dealings.
Right.
Which completely contradicts everything that he said. So you know what a judge tells a jury when there's a false exculpatory statement? The judge says you can use that as evidence of guilt alone.
Right.
So you could use that against him. So I guess what I'm telling you is Joe Biden is probably guilty about 50 ways to Sunday. And it is an unbelievable tragedy and corruption that he's sitting in the White House. It's unbelievable. Nothing like this should ever happen to a decent country. It should not happen in a country of honest people to have a president that is a 30-year criminal. And this goes back a long time ago that he did this one. There's also the whole thing with MNSA and a bank when they did the bankruptcy reform bill. All the Democrats opposed the bankruptcy. All the Democrats were in favor of the bankruptcy reform bill because it was favorable to poor people and unfavorable to banks. One Democrat was in favor of the banks, Joe Biden. They called him Mr. MSNB, or whatever the bank was. You know why? His son had a no-show job for that bank.
Really?
And everybody knew it.
Wow.
Been a thief forever.
Yeah.
Well,
It's that to conclude on this, and let you move wherever you want on this. That's one of the main reasons I think that more of America is starting to feel it and see it now. I just saw that today another approval rating of Joe sunk to a record low of 34% at this point. So look. So
what do you think?
If you don't see this, if you're not actually aware of this, then you're completely biased. It's that simple, right? I mean, this is right in front of our face.
So I'm going to ask all of you, Andrew, and all of you the following. There is a compromise on the table about the border. Here's the compromise as I understand it, and this is from the New York Post. So I don't want to be a plagiarizer. This is from the New York Post, and I'm not saying that.
I would love to see you as president of Harvard. By the way, I'm putting that out there. I would love
just
to
a
see
few
you
weeks
as president. Yeah, just like I don't know, 90 days. Let's do a 90 days as president of Harvard.
You think there'd be any anti-Semitic activity?
Oh my goodness, I'd like to see them try. I hope they try.
8 years, no riots in New York. If I can't handle those little pussies at Harvard,
earlier today, and before we get to the border over here,
little wuss people.
I was going into WABC studios to record, and a little bit after I got there, there was another takeover of Grand Central Station by the pro-Hamas, the pro-terrorist protesters here in New York. How many times when you were mayor did Grand Central get taken over by pro-terrorist protesters or any protesters?
It's illegal to take over Grand. Somebody wrote an article in either the Wall Street Journal or the Post, because that's all I read. I don't read the communist papers, saying that doesn't anybody know that it's illegal to demonstrate in the middle of the street? It's illegal. Nobody knows. I mean, since 2020, nobody's even thought about it. I thought about it.
The main idea being you're slowing down emergency services vehicles, right? It's hurting other taxpayers, citizens of New York.
We are the most densely populated city in America by a lot. Nobody close. We've got over 8 million people here, and during a busy day, we can have 12 million people here. Now at Christmas time, you can't move here. Now a man or a woman gets a heart attack. I wish Dr. Maria was still here. The amount of time that you have to get to that person to do the immediate first aid and then get them to a hospital is going to determine whether they live or die. And I changed the whole fire department and EMS in order to be faster and better. And we were so proud of how many lives we saved.
Response times were cut.
I wasn't going to let Al Sharpton cut into that.
Yeah.
He had every right to protest. He wants to protest me for being a racist, pig, swine, Nazi. Great. It was all it did is make me more popular. So go ahead, do it, Al. But you got to stay on the sidewalk. You go on the street, you go to Rikers Island. That's where people that go in the street belong, not on the street. You take my bridge, I take you. Not the last one that takes the bridge, the first one that takes the bridge.
Yeah.
That's what they don't understand about policing riots. That's why I never had one. I never had one because I never got past the first stone or two. Mm-hmm. They have a theory of, oh, don't push it too far. Don't push it too fast. Don't have riot gear on. It'll get them upset. You're damn right it'll get them upset. They'll start pissing in their pants. That's how it'll get them upset. You think these guys are big heroes? Yeah. When do you see them up against the New York City cops? Okay? It doesn't happen. And I didn't have big rules on, gee, you can't touch them here because that's unfair and you can't touch. You got to get them off that street because somebody's going to die because of their narcissistic, insane behavior. Yeah. And taking over a railroad station, no way. You can make your First Amendment point. In fact, you make it better when you make it peacefully. Mm-hmm. I mean, people are more impressed with a sensible presentation. If they want to present the fact that they think Palestine is being unfairly treated, the Israeli argument is they're a bunch of crazy Neanderthal terrorists.
They're playing into it pretty well. I'd say they're playing into it pretty well.
There have been all kinds of pro-Israel rallies. Nobody gets hurt.
One of the signs that I saw while these protesters were chanting "Go to hell, Israel" was queers for a liberation of Palestine. Now, I haven't honestly done enough research into the topic. Actually, I've done more than enough research into the topic, but I can't tell you that I've asked. But I could assume, how is the LGBTQ plus whatever I'm missing the letters, excuse me, seen in Gaza these days? What does Sharia law say about somebody who is gay or queer or lesbian? I don't think there's been one or trans.
I don't think there's been one in Gaza since the Hamas took over in 2005.
Do these people realize when they say that they will stone gays and lesbians, they don't mean like stoned on drugs? Do they realize that?
I don't know what they realize, Andrew. I actually have come to the conclusion about Harvard and these schools. They also get a bad education. They don't understand basic history. Like, how about the ones that say, stop occupying Gaza? They stopped occupying Gaza in 2005, which is about when Harvard stopped teaching history. I mean, nobody's occupying Gaza. Hamas occupies Gaza.
Well, critical thinking has been replaced by critical race theory and critical theory. And sadly, we're seeing more and more kids that don't have the skills to be able to actually look at problems rationally, to examine all arguments of a said problem and be able to independently come to a conclusion. You're just being fed, this is what you think, take the thoughts out and act on emotion.
Yeah, it is absolutely true. You know, it took me a while to figure that out. Because I get into these discussions and you'd make a rational argument and then you'd look at the person and there'd be no reaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What didn't connect, whatever the, I call it the Greek logic. The Greek logic gene or synapse that's there is gone, and it's overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed by this emotion, this indifferentiated emotion that, you know, Trump is terrible, right wing is terrible, all Republicans are racist. You can't even educate them to the fact that you wouldn't have a civil rights bill if it wasn't for Republicans. Mm-hmm. The Democratic Party is this party of slavery. Yeah. They want to change names because of associations with slavery. The biggest name associated with slavery in the history of America is the Democrat Party. Number one. Want to change a name? Change that name. Then you might have some credibility changing others. God forbid you should say that to them. They I don't know, they just couldn't believe it. Yeah. They just project it. They're Well, here's the compromise. See what you think of this. So Biden or somebody, I can't be Biden. I don't know, the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz recommended the following: that we reduce the number of illegal crossings to 3,000 to 5,000 per day. So after,
I'm sorry, it's amazing that we're talking about reducing the crossings to 3,000 to 5,000 a day. That's unbelievable.
oh,
That's unreal. That's unreal.
Mayor, we shouldn't even, and Andrew, we shouldn't even be talking about reducing. There should be zero, which
Just
is
3,000 to
which is
5,000
impossible.
The number is like
Mike, it's only
and that's a negotiating.
it's only a million.
number
It's only a
point.
million a year.
Is that all?
It's only a million illegals a year.
On the low end.
On the low end, right? Yeah, that we know of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
If Washington can tell border agents to stop waving in illegals when the total hits some arbitrary threshold, then it can tell them to do it right from the start. Like, don't let them in. Somebody asked me the other day, how can the president stop illegal immigration? I said, you're not going to believe me. He can just say, stop it.
Yeah.
he takes a little piece of paper. Doesn't have to be fancy. He can just take a piece of paper. I'll write it for him. An order to all agents of the United States, any illegal crossing the border should be immediately arrested and confined until further notice. And they shouldn't be given parole.
And if you want to think about what like the subheadings of that would be, very simply, first and foremost, I know this has been a campaign slogan, and it's something that has worked. It would work again. First, you build that wall. Secondly, you make sure that you fund your border patrol with a strategy, so then that way they can enforce the law. Third, you make the call to Mexico that you have to make and say, look, here's the thing. We're going to make sure that you're going to make sure you protect your southern border as well. That way, there's less stress on my CBP.
Sure.
And then, of course, you end up taking those illegals that have already come here under President Biden, and you figure out a way to deport them.
If they
the
came
United
from
States.
Mexico, they go back to Mexico. If they came from China, they go back to China. We got planes.
Remember, Trump had a remain in Mexico policy. And it worked extremely
We'll have a put back in Mexico policy.
well. It sounds
Go
like
back to
President
where-
Trump is campaigning.
Come back to where you came from. In fact, the law allows us to do that. Nobody wants to cares what the law is. You are supposed to declare asylum in the first country you show up in. That's a free country.
Yeah.
So Mexico is a democracy. If they fail to declare asylum in Mexico, we can immediately deny them that and send them back.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they don't bother to ask for asylum in Mexico. And Mexico has no choice but to, under international law, do the same thing we do. So it's a win-win proposition. You say to them, you see them coming over the border from Mexico. You were just in Mexico. That's correct. They recite what the cartel tells them. I'm here because of fear of persecution. They could ask a lot of other questions now and prove it isn't true. Like who, where, how, when. If they can't answer those questions, you can throw them out. They don't do it. They just take it as if it's true, and it's true 5% of the time. And now we get 7 million illegals in the last four years like that. What could be done very simply is to say, you came from Mexico. Did you ask for asylum in Mexico? No. Good. Bye-bye. On a bus, right back to Mexico. What, Mexico going to stop us?
Yeah.
They're going to stop us? I don't think so. I don't think so.
If they do.
Yeah. Send them back to the cartels. And that'll stop them in a minute. It'll all stop. You do that for 2 weeks, do it steady, it's over. We do not have an obligation to take everybody that wants to come here. Otherwise, we can't exist. We have to take a reasonable number of people. We have to take people who agree with our values. Otherwise, we can't be a country. We're a country of values. We're not a country of ethnicity, race, religion. If you don't have the tendency to agree with our values, we're never going to have a country.
Yeah. Well, even the concept of the melting pot, right? It's ultimately bringing those values, melting that pot into the American way of life, into the American ideals, right? And our Constitution. And so to me, this is something that it's tough to imagine how the Biden team doesn't understand. They have to understand now this is as much of a disaster as this is, because you can see how the majority of people are looking and saying this is a complete mess. Even here in New York is technically, not technically, but feels like is becoming a border state at this point. At what at what point do Biden's political guys get in there and say, hey, you know, what the heck are we doing here? We're going to lose this election just on this alone.
People ask me, if I were Adams, what would I do with the ones that are being sent here either by, I mean, he blames it all on Abbott, but Abbott's only about 10% of the people who are sent here. They're mostly sent here by Biden.
And by the way, I want to remind people too, when you've heard Eric Adams the last 3 or 4 months saying this is a problem, well, for the year before that, he was inviting illegal immigrants to come here, saying that we're an open city, calling Greg Abbott a racist, the governor of Texas, and actually even greeting some of these illegal immigrants down at the Port Authority with gift bags for them. So that's what you've gotten, Mayor Adams there. Sorry.
No, you're right.
No, well, Mayor and Andrew, I play hockey at Floyd Bennett Field. I play at Aviator.
Yeah.
So I was actually there the first day I had going to my hockey game when the migrants came. They left. They left because they wanted 5-star hotels, and it was an outside tent.
Far out of the way.
They went there. They didn't like it because there's no stores around, there's no schools around, and they didn't like the food. So they made our government that we pay taxes for take them back to Manhattan where they came from. And now I don't even think anybody's living there.
We're going to take a short break as I digest that. Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. We are right back. This is Rudy Giuliani, America's Mayor Live. We were actually listening in a little bit on Newsmax and seeing what the explanation is that the Pope is giving for blessing same-sex marriages. I mean, theologically, I can see ways that it can be done. People would consider it unrealistic, and that would be there's nothing wrong with it if you don't have sex. The sin. I'm not telling you my views on it because I'm not sure what they are. I'm a long time ago I studied theology, but being homosexual is not a sin. Being gay is not a sin. Being heterosexual is not a sin. Having sex outside of marriage is a sin for a heterosexual, a homosexual, a transsexual, or one of the other 54, whatever the hell they have. The sin is the act outside of marriage. To many people, that sounds very strict. For many people, it sounds very ancient. For many people, it sounds very wrong. But that is the moral teaching of the Catholic Church. So what he could be saying is if you're living if you're gay and you're living a celibate life, nothing wrong with that. Just like a priest living a celibate life. Now, how realistic is it? You and I could talk about that at some point. But I think that may be the way you justify it. So here, Andrew and I don't know if anybody knows this, but if you ever watched New York in the 1990s, it was pretty hard to watch a Yankee game and not see this kid yelling and screaming right next to the dugout, and his father acting even dumber. And we are massive Yankee fans, and there is now this big thing going on for the pitcher Yamamoto, who's a Japanese pitcher. He's probably as good as Ohtani, right?
That's what they're saying. It's tough to imagine. Well, maybe he's a pitcher, I guess, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Ohtani does.
Yeah.
Ohtani's an unusual. He's a Babe Ruth. I mean,
Right.
he does both. I think he's got to pick one, but that's only me.
Well, he's not going to be able to pitch next year, I think, because of his
Well,
shoulder.
that's why.
right?
That's
So-
why I wasn't so disappointed. The Yankees. I mean, Yankees need some immediate help, and that kind of money.
Yeah.
Sunk into a guy that's only going to DH.
$700
They're going to need
amazing.
3 or 4 things. But I'd love to get this guy Yamamoto, and the Mets are after him too.
You know what I was reading from a political side on this thing? I'd be interested to hear your take on this. The state of California is upset with the way that the Dodgers structured the Ohtani deal because the money being deferred means the state of California may not be able to collect all of that state income tax if he actually moves.
Oh,
Think about that.
poor Newsom. He won't be able to go to his best restaurants anymore. They
But-
collect enough taxes. They're worried about that.
I also heard of a budget shortfall in California, somewhere in the range of $65 billion potentially upcoming, which to me sounds, I've got to do a little bit. This is, again, I read this morning. I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into it. But I think because of the timing of ultimately when the budget is issued, along with when some of the funds actually, I think that's a temporary one. But I think you're looking at what would be a 13-figure deficit. I get that right? 13-figure set, 11-figure deficit.
Well,
11-figure deficit. Over $10 billion.
68 billion.
$68 billion.
Just looked it
okay?
up. Just looked it up.
$68
I got
billion
the
deficit.
advertisement already. If he runs for president,
So they could
He-
they could
he'll
use
do
the
f-
extra tax money from Ohtani over here.
just Newsom a little time, and he'll make America bankrupt like he did California,
It's the biggest deficit in California history,
yeah.
which would mean the biggest
Amazing.
deficit in history.
maybe in just all history.
In state history.
Of the state.
In
In
state
state,
history.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
State history. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a gigantic state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
this is a real battle. I mean, you have the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox. Are the Dodgers after him too? I don't know.
I heard one of the California teams is in. I forget which one.
Let me
is
see if
the
they
other one,
if
but-
they have some of these. You know, he played.
Are there any other teams aside from the Yankees, the Mets, and the Red Sox? I didn't even know.
Not ones that I look at.
Oh, so yeah, I'm reading it now. He's talking with Dodgers, Giants, Red Sox, Phillies, Mets, and Yankees.
Yeah, the teams with the money. I mean, yeah, you know, those are the teams that can afford them.
Mm-hmm.
And it really depends on the guy. I mean, and what his goals in life are. I mean, the Japanese players who played on the Yankees did very, very well. I mean, one of them was a World Series
MVP.
All-Star. Yeah,
Yeah,
Right,
an MVP. Yeah. All right.
He won our last
Godzilla.
Yeah, he won our last World Series.
I
for us.
keep thinking
Loved
that. So
him.
yeah, I keep thinking the
Loved
one guy
him.
who sadly didn't. It was committed suicide. Arabu.
Yeah, poor Arabu.
But he's Hideki Matsui.
Yeah, Matsui. What
Yeah,
he was a
exactly.
great player.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what do you think? Should the Yankees go after this? Should they?
Yeah.
Would you be happy if they sign Yamamoto
100%.
for $200 million,
100%.
$250 million,
100%.
$300 million, whatever that number is?
100%.
Okay.
Him and Garrett Cole, 1 and 2. Cole and him, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That'd be a good way.
I do like Soto being on the team too. I was in DC
Oh, you
when,
need the
when they
left-handed.
won. And
Soto.
that was a lot of fun.
I-
he was a
believe
big
it or
star
not-
in Washington.
Believe it or not, I'm very greedy. We need one more.
one more left.
power.
Yeah, you want that left-handed power. It's such a short.
All
porch. Get it out to
all
left
of the
field.
great Yankee teams have had 2 left-handed power hitters. A teeny bit less necessary if you had an A-Rod or a Judge.
Yeah.
Because they can hit. I mean, A-Rod is the first right-hander to hit 50 home runs in Yankee
Mhm.
Stadium, and of course, Judge is the first right-hander to hit 62 home runs in Yankee Stadium.
Well,
But right-handers generally can't hit home runs that way in Yankee Stadium.
You know, I have a very
It's a
simple.
left-hander's ballpark.
I have a very simple life philosophy. Your politics looks better if you're on the right, and Yankee power hitters look better if they're on the left.
Oh, yeah.
It's that
Yeah.
simple.
well,
It's also very, very nerve-wracking for a right-handed pitcher coming into Yankee Stadium if he's got to face a lineup of 4 or 5 lefties who can put the ball out.
Yeah.
no,
Because like the left field The Green Monster scares you at Fenway.
Mhm.
The short porch and right scares you at Yankee
Yeah.
Stadium.
So is this another New York tradition where we're talking Yankees baseball during the height of the playoff push for NFL teams? It's I'm
Some
not.
of our best trades were made at Christmas.
We're not talking Giants football, are we?
Some of our best trades were
Fascinating.
made
I
at
got two
Christmas.
big Giants fan here.
We talked a whole lot about the Giants when they beat the Green Bay Packers
Yeah.
about a week and a half ago.
No,
But,
Not too much more about
but
Tommy
not
DeVito
this
these
week.
days.
Not this week.
I
How's
remember-
Tommy doing? Where's
not this
Tommy?
week, not this week.
Where's Tommy DeVito?
I remember I was Christmas shopping. I was the mayor at the time, and the Yankees acquired Tino Martinez. And I called up Randy Levine, who was my deputy mayor, but at the time he was spending time working with the Yankees. And I said, "Thank you for my Christmas present." Why? First baseman, left-handed power hitter,
Yeah,
and there was a great addition.
yeah.
Wow,
And it was tough to replace Mattingly, but he did a pretty darn good job of doing it. I mean,
wasn't it? Yeah, I felt sorry
amazing.
for him
Amazing.
at first, but
Yeah, at first because he started off a little slump, but man, he was
They all do.
clutch. He
They
was
all start
clutch
off with
throughout
a
his
slump.
career and just a guy who filled the
Jeter
position
started
well.
off, I think, did Jeter start off with a
Jeter might have been the exception.
Yeah.
Jeter might have been the
I
exception.
remember one
I'm trying to
season
think.
Jeter was in the
Yes, one season.
He was
Jeter
in a
started
big,
off
long
as
slump,
hitless.
and he didn't get a hit,
And he started
and-
getting booed by the Yankee fans.
New York and Boston are relentless. And I have to tell you, I was really always angry at Yankee fans who didn't until I started going to games in Boston. They're worse. They're worse.
Well, I'm going to put you both on the spot. Name your favorite Yankees team. Pick a year. If you can.
I think for me, it's 96 because that was the first championship team that I saw. And you remember the magic of it and just the way that they had the first World Series they had won in 18 years. It was Jeter's rookie year. You had, Bernie Williams. And as you mentioned, Tino Martinez. Pettit was on the mound for them. So for me, it was 96. Look, 98 was one of the greatest years in sports history where they won 125 games.
Oh, wow.
So it's tough to not look at that 1998 team as a Yankee fan and say, I mean, that by the numbers, that could even be better than the 1927 Yankees team. But certainly in the argument,
Different
for
kind of
greatest-
team.
different kind
In
of
some
team.
ways, a more balanced team.
Right.
The 27 team was a pitcher, home run team,
Yeah.
power team.
Was that
But
Babe
I-
Ruth's team?
Lou Gehrig
But I'd be interested to hear you. I mean, because
and Babe Ruth.
you have seen
I thought you said Lou Gehrig, though.
180 RBIs.
Yeah, not Babe Ruth. Lou Gehrig. I say Babe Ruth.
180 RBIs.
That's more than one a
unbelievable.
game.
Yeah. I'd love to hear this answer from you, though, because, I have, in my lifetime, I've seen 5 Yankee championship teams. And for you, what was your favorite of the Yankee championship? Because you've seen everybody from DiMaggio play all the way through to the present day Aaron Judge.
My favorite championship is the one that was yours because I was the mayor.
Yeah.
And it was the first one that we won as a mayor. It coincided a bit with the turnaround in New York. It became it actually, the city was starting to really improve by 1996.
Mhm.
People were and the statistics were all there, but people were rejecting them.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a moment that broke through.
Right.
And from then on, my popularity went way up. But people started to see the decline in crime, how much cleaner the city was, the decline in welfare. Sometimes there's a change in attitude is really necessary to see it. And I always thought that was the thing that did it.
Mhm.
So to me, and it was just very, very exciting being the mayor, growing up a Yankee fan, and there I am with you in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Having alcohol splashed on us, probably committing a crime having you there.
And then they went on to win
If
four
the
times.
Biden people were around, they would have
Let's
arrested
make
me.
sure the statute
They
of
would've-
limitations is.
Oh, but they can go ahead and do away
Well,
with the
wait a
statute.
second. I would be the
They got
victim of.
Trump.
Think about this. I would be the victim of this crime, and I'm not filing any charges against you. Don't worry, it's not
That's
coming
okay.
for me over here. But according
they're
to
trying
New
to
York
get-
State now, you don't need to have the victim actually
They
file
don't
a
have
said
to be a-
crime.
no one
against
has to be
you in order
harmed.
do
You don't
this
even have
for
to have a
Trump.
victim.
So there you go.
You don't have to have a victim.
Yeah.
If a Democrat says you committed a crime, you committed a crime, whether there's a victim or not. You committed a crime.
That's right. That's exactly right.
We've entered soccer time on this very busy but special edition of America's Mayor Live with the one and only Andrew Giuliani, who, for those of you outside New York, although he's syndicated nationally, Andrew, of course, is the next up-and-coming star on radio here in New York, WABC Radio. And, of course, they can catch you on all sorts of times with WABC.
Sunday
8 to 9
always
o'clock.
8 to 9,
doing,
and next
we do
week
a whole morning shows, Christmas, so you can tune in anytime.
next
from
week
6
it'll be
to
on
10 a.m.,
every
maybe even
morning.
6 to noon. I think they're just going to play me
Substituting
kind of on a
for
loop,
Sid, right?
basically. Substituting for
Sid's
Sid.
gonna take Sid's gonna take a vacation.
He's
I don't
going to be.
believe it.
I don't believe it either
He'll
until
be
I
calling
actually
in.
come in there that
He'll
day.
be calling in criticizing.
Well, it's kind of like the mayor. The mayor doesn't take vacation. It's only when
True.
somebody's forcing them off the air, right?
Remind me tomorrow-
They had to basically be a
Ted?
court order that
Ted,
they don't keep you on. You don't take vacations.
What do I have to do tomorrow morning?
Oh, we'll be on. We'll be on WABC.
We got to call Sid.
We'll be on with
there you
Sid.
go. Okay,
Your
so you
weekly
gotta
call.
listen in, WABC. What time is that call? 7:40, 8:40?
It changes week to
8:40?
week. I'm actually texting with the great Justin Ellick. They're asking for 8:40. So Justin, if
8:40,
you're
good.
8:40
if you're
tomorrow. I'll be
listening or
tuning
watching,
in.
That's
we'll be on.
merciful.
It's 8:40.
That's a merciful-
WABCRadio.com.
Wait, Mayor, how much time do you actually get in with Sid after he talks about him, how he's the greatest radio show host ever? Like 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Oh, he loves the mayor.
Honest question.
No,
Wait a
Sid
second. You want to
loves
get invited back over here? You know, just
Sid loves the
I
mayor.
know.
Sid
Sid does.
loves the mayor.
Actually,
I know,
I have to
I
tell you, they've had great conversation. Been fun to listen in.
Sid's good.
As
I think
you guys
I
have
think
good
I think I get some of the best interviews with him.
Yeah.
But so I get my time because I just say it.
That's true. That's true.
And Sid's smart enough to know it's better if I say it than if he does. But he says it about me too. So it's like he scratches my back, I scratch his back.
He lets the mayor talk. He's talking.
He lets me talk.
Yeah.
Sid is the best guy on morning radio ever. The mayor is the greatest mayor in the history of the world.
Well,
Now let's talk about what a bum Biden is.
Yeah. Well, both can be true. Sid is the best in the mornings here in New York, and
think we'll
the
probably-
mayor is the best mayor this country's ever seen. So both can be true in that situation.
I think we'll be talking about the Biden brothers tomorrow.
I have a good feeling that's probably the case. I'm looking forward to tuning in and listening as always.
So let's do a little politics as we conclude. All right.
Oh, that's right.
So today there was a little excitement about the idea that Haley has gained. Where in Iowa or New Hampshire? New Hampshire.
Right.
Right. Is that right? In New Hampshire, Ted?
Yes. New Hampshire.
Yeah.
New Hampshire.
But I mean, she's got it down to like the teens, like 15, 16.
According to this one poll, right?
I think it's unsustainable. That's what I think.
Let me see if I have it there. I think I might have it over there. No,
Yeah, I saw it was
So this is the
44-29.
CBS poll, right?
44-29.
The CBS poll,
be
Haley is
44-29.
gaining on Trump.
Trump was talking about it. the
They
other day.
say Trump's at 44. This is the CBS poll. Nikki Haley coming in at 29%. Ron DeSantis dropping down. Well, for him in New Hampshire, 11%'s not nothing. Christie at 10%. Vivek, our friend there, down at 5%. And
Hutchinson's
Ada.
still in. I always forget that he's still in. I was waking up the other morning, having my cup of coffee, and I read something that Ada was still in, and it
Ada.
surprised me. I was shocked that he was an Asa. That's right.
Yeah, it's
I think
Ada.
got me
No,
there.
we love calling
Yeah,
him. We call him
It was
Ada.
still in.
Yeah.
That's true. Now I literally am calling him.
Yeah. Is that
So
what?
anyway.
So now what happens?
This is the poll, man. This is what Andrew. All right, so we have this
By the
poll
way,
up.
of all those options there, and this may even include
that on for me.
Christie.
Yeah.
The biggest disaster for a potential Republican presidency would be Nikki Haley. I want to be very, very clear about this. I feel very strongly about the fact that Nikki Haley was very anti-America first while she was in her role as UN ambassador. I don't think she did enough. And also the very clear fact that she abandoned the administration 3 or 4 weeks before the midterms showed me that she was playing political games as we talk about this. She could have very easily waited till after the midterms and said that's a clear break when a lot of people say, you know what, I've served my duty. Now I've got to go back home to South Carolina or wherever your home might be. But what she decided to do at the very beginning of October in 2018 was leave the administration right before the midterms. And that to me was her hedge where she could tell the American people, I left when it was unpopular to do so if Trump was unpopular, where she could say, I worked for Trump for 2 years if he was popular. I think Haley would be a disaster as president of the United States. And of all of those people up there, she is by far, I guess Christie's very close in there, but she's my least favorite. We'll put it that way.
Political animal.
Yes.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
the reality is that Vivek and DeSantis have made a pretty good case that she's part of the deep state too. That we're not going to have much of a difference between her and a Democrat as far as the kind of stuff we're looking at with lobbyists and going with companies and selling out America for all this
spelled
crap.
it out.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But here, I'll tell you what troubles me. That's why I go back to that. Here, I'll go back to the poll. It troubles me because if somebody like Christie were to drop out, right, and endorse her, right, and she were to get the vast majority of those Christie votes, she'd get very close.
Can't believe it.
I don't see DeSantis dropping out.
I think also DeSantis's voters might go more to Trump than they would to Haley.
There's a real chance of that. Yeah.
I think because it just to me he's talked about kind of the America First values down in Florida, wherever we may think about him. I think that some of those DeSantis voters are not necessarily going to Haley. Wouldn't surprise me if more go to Trump. Christie's, you're right. It's more of a wild card in terms of where that goes. But again, this is one poll. I'd be interested to see if they have follow-up polls to this that show Haley
Trump,
in the high 20s
Trump,
or even
Trump
the 30s.
would get, and a lot of people wouldn't vote. You know, when their candidate goes out, a lot of them just don't vote.
And also, you've got to remember,
Interesting
too,
thing to remember.
it's looking
About half.
like in
That's,
Iowa.
that's
About
very
half.
good point to make.
About half of them don't vote. So you take Christie's vote, 10%. At best, half of them will vote. Assume they all go to Haley. She goes to 35. DeSantis comes out. Trump picks up probably 3 points. Ramaswamy comes out. He probably picks up another 2. Hutchinson comes out.
I don't know who's
Nobody
voting
knows
for
who those people are, and they don't know who they are, so they're not going to vote.
him.
Because they don't know who they're voting for. Who
They got to give him 1% because maybe at least one person chose him, right? I don't know how that guy's even.
So I guess the biggest point or question you'd make on this is how do the Iowa caucuses then, how do the results of the Iowa caucuses affect something like this? Because right now, Trump is in very good position in Iowa. We're closing in on a month until the caucuses. You have to imagine that he wins it potentially by a record-setting number. I think the biggest Iowa caucus win was about 12
It'll help.
points, probably back in the 80s.
It'll
That's a
help.
good point to bring up.
Usually Iowa doesn't affect New Hampshire, but when an incumbent, and he's an incumbent, remember, I mean, he won it last time as an incumbent. As an incumbent, if he shows no weakness in Iowa, that will help him a lot. In New Hampshire.
I got the latest polls of Iowa, Mayor. Trump at 50% right now. This is today. DeSantis 19.5. Haley 15.2.
And that's a rolling average.
Yeah,
as
it's
of
rolling
today.
average. Yeah, as
Of
of
course,
today.
the CBS poll shows Trump at 58 points in Iowa.
Yeah, I got
DeSantis
that
at
too.
22, Haley at 13. In DeSantis world, I don't know how much does this impact the candidates? You know, the behind the scenes, when things are falling apart, the campaign. People are leaving the campaign. Is that more something that the chattering class in Washington talks about? Or can that bleed out into voters?
No, I think it affects primary voters. Primary vote, it wouldn't affect a general election too much, but primary voters are political junkies. They're people who they are the chattering class.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the behind the scenes gossipy.
Every state has it.
Yeah, and I don't say that
a negative way,
disparagingly. I'm saying it. They're the professionals.
Yeah. They're talking about this stuff every day.
Iowa, in particular. I mean, Iowa
And New
Iowa
Hampshire.
is only usually it's less than 100,000 voters. They're all very, very dedicated because they sit there for 4 hours. You can steal Iowa if you got a great organization.
Obama, 2008.
Yeah, if you have a great organization.
So-
Those numbers are a little
Steal.
too much
Right.
to make it look like you're going to do it. And I think he's a little too popular there for that to happen. But I mean, the only thing DeSantis can hope for in Iowa is a much better showing than he has. I mean, if he does that, he might keep himself alive. Or same thing with her.
Like
If
something
she-
like 30 points
I
or
think
something.
if DeSantis bombs the next debate, I think Haley's going to jump him in Iowa because she's very close. She's only 4 points behind him. In
Well,
Iowa.
not in this poll.
And a rolling
Well,
average,
The
maybe.
rolling average.
And this-
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But this is the outlier, and it's the most recent.
yeah. The rolling average, she's 4% behind him.
And look, by all accounts, DeSantis has a massive ground game operation in Iowa, right? He's really staked his claim in Iowa, where he's visited every county. He's got
bottom three
staff.
should
He's
just
got
give it
staff
up.
on the ground.
Just quit.
And will that make a difference, right, in a caucus?
Vivek, Christie, and Hutchinson should just quit.
It really depends on how good DeSantis' organization really is. And honestly, everybody says they have a good organization, and you
We'll
really
see.
don't know until it
We'll
produces.
see on game day, right?
Until it produces.
See on game day.
And it depends on how good Trump's is too. I mean, just because he's the incumbent doesn't mean his organization is the very. We'll find out.
It's a shame about
New Hampshire, the organization doesn't matter as much. It's more like a regular election, and his general popularity will win the day for him in New Hampshire. But that one is a strange one.
It's a shame about
saw
Vivek, I
that.
think.
Yeah, go ahead.
But somebody who's willing to speak the truth, which he clearly is, deserves a shot. In my opinion.
Too young, too inexperienced.
Yeah,
He's made
that's
some
what's a
mistakes.
shame.
He's made too many mistakes.
He's made some mistakes. And look, I think a lot of the things he's saying is good, but it's just because you're saying the right things doesn't mean that you should be president of the United States. Now, this is a guy who I would love to see more in the public square and continue to go out there, express his points, talk about the importance of the Constitution, of our way of life in America. He's got an interesting background, but it's not his time. And I think honestly, he'd be doing his best, and we'd see that this is a Vivek that cared about the United States of America if he, over the next couple of weeks, decided to drop out and endorse President Trump and start working with him and say, you know what, Vivek, you may have your time. You may have your time, right? At 38, 39 years old. But the next month and a half or so, the next month of Vivek's campaign will tell me whether he's in this for enriching himself or whether he actually cares about the United States moving forward. If he looks and says, you know what, the writing's on the wall for this campaign in 2024, I'm going to endorse President Trump. I'm going to work for him in Iowa, in New Hampshire, try to get this stuff done, and I'll look at my time in the future, then I will be a very big Vivek fan. If he doesn't, then I'll say, you know what, Vivek, I think this was really to make sure the spotlight was on you for as long as possible.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think that he has not made a irreparable error, like a Biden. Oh, look, I mean, Biden made an irreparable error and he became president. He plagiarized, lied over and over, and was declared by Sam Donaldson as somebody who had no future.
Yeah.
He's a Democrat, though. Remember, different rules. He's a Democrat.
That's not the case. That's not the case with Vivek.
Yeah.
The mistakes were all first-time mistakes. They weren't critical.
And
he showed himself to be very smart, and I would say he would show his patriotism.
And you have to admire
if he did what you said.
You have to admire somebody who's willing to run a campaign where they're not just saying, I don't want to make the big mistake, but willing to go out there time and time again and say the things that I think a lot of Americans are thinking, are feeling, knowing that if you do that, you're going to be more vulnerable to make a few mistakes, as he has. But guess what? He's human. So now, Vivek, now's the time to really make sure that you do what's best for our country.
Well, I think that's a great way to.
What a great show. We had Andrew the whole hour.
Andrew, thank you very, very much. We had a terrific time. Thank you, guys. And tomorrow we'll be back. We'll be back at 3:00 on WABCRadio.com. And then we'll be back here at 8:00 tomorrow night on X, Rumble, Getter,
YouTube,
Facebook,
Instagram,
Twitch,
Instagram,
Twitch,
Twitch,
QUX.
and QUX. Thank you, and God bless America.